Howdy everyone, Runt9 here, and welcome to Runt9 Reviews One Step from Eden. One Step from Eden is a hot new roguelike deck builder from Thomas Moon Kang, who tried to do something a little bit different with the genre and made it more of a real-time tactics-based battle where you have grid movement, you have a lot of stuff to dodge, and you have some really interesting synergies with the cards and artifacts and things like that. So how about we jump into a little bit of gameplay and commentary so we can get a feel for what makes this game unique, and when we come back, I'll tell you what I think about it and whether or not it executed on its uniqueness in a good way or a maybe not so good way. See you in just a few. Alrighty, let's take a quick peek at One Step from Eden. So you start off on the main menu here. I haven't tried co-op or PvP yet. I think that both of those could be potentially very interesting. You have a library of all the things that you've unlocked so far, as well as some stats about some previous runs, achievements, that kind of stuff. And the options menu it's fine. It's got some interesting streaming things as well. Enable reward voting, boss mercy voting, stuff like that. But for the most part, fairly straightforward, and single player is where you mostly want to be. So the first thing I'll point out is look at how many different characters there are. And you might think, okay, that's a lot of characters, sure, fine, whatever. But I mean, the game plays mostly the same, right? No. Every single one of these is a completely different playstyle, encourages completely different builds. So definitely something to keep in mind. But for the sake of this, I'm going to play the one that I know the best. That's going to be Reva. And so when you're here, you can press tab to look at the details of these different things. So you have a weapon, which is just kind of a basic auto attack type thing that you can use all the time. Saffron, the main Saffron thing that you start off with, has like a little minigun that's just constantly firing if you use it. You start off with a basic artifact. This one, you gain shield when you move, which blocks incoming damage. And then you start off with 4 initial spells. You can throw this up in the air, and you can actually hold E to show a preview of it. So this throws a shield up in the air, and you can catch it to gain some shield. You have a shield throw that deals damage equal to your shield, and if it bounces back, if you catch it, you regain the shield that you lost when you threw it. Diagonal beam is a beam that does some damage and bounces around in a diagonal way, and then shield beam shoots a laser and gives you shield when it hits, and it hits twice, so it can give you 20 shield. So there's also a couple different game modes. I've only unlocked normal, and then you can also do a random seed or just hop in. So you're thrust right into your first battle. And your first thought is going to be, okay, there is a bit going on here. So on the bottom there, you can see that there is a hostage nurse. She will heal you if you save her. I accidentally killed her, so I didn't actually get a heal, but it doesn't matter because we had a flawless battle. At the end of this, we found some artifacts. Artifacts are just like they are in Slay the Spire. They are permanent bonuses that apply across all of your combat. So for example, this one gives you mana regen for broken tiles. This one will give you mana regen but adds jams to your deck, which just kind of pollute things. So we'll take that, that's fine. We found another one. Gain 10 defense for 1 second when you get hit. Honestly pretty good, because we're gonna have some shield, so it will stop our shield from taking more damage. So focus is an interesting one. I haven't picked this up before, but this is just, at the top left, you see what it costs. And so these are your cards that go in your deck. And so we'll actually pick that up, and we'll be able to go to the map by pressing tab, but you can also drop out of that and practice a little bit. So you can see, I think I can use the mouse. You can see over here is you have 2 spells that are currently castable, and this is the way the deck works. Is every spell in your deck is listed here, and you can see what's coming up. You can also see, I think this is a setting that I have enabled, is you can see the current spells in your 2 cast slots. I believe they're A and B on controllers, which is the way that you should probably play. I play on keyboard because I've been playing on keyboard for 20 years, 25 years, and so it's just what I'm used to. So you can see your 2 spells right here, and it takes a while to like memorize what spells you've got, but once you get used to it, it makes a lot of sense. Then over here, you have your mana bar. You've got your current mana out of max mana, and then you've got mana regen, which is how much mana you gain per second. If you open your deck, you can see your attack damage, your spell power, your defense, which is a flat damage reduction amount, and your luck, which increases item rarity and also increases difficulty, as well as your mana regen. You have your current list of spells, and I believe every 5 spells increases your shuffle time by 0.1 second. And so after you use your last spell, you can see that it requires you to shuffle your deck, and you get your spells back there. You can also forcibly shuffle at any time by using spacebar or I believe left trigger on controllers. At least that's what it is on Switch. You also have upgrades and removals. You start with 1 removal at the start of a run, and you can also buy upgrades and removals from shops and sometimes get them as loot for killing bosses instead of saving them. And that's something we're not going to get to see at this point. We're not going to go all the way to a boss battle, but when you defeat a boss, you can either save them and they'll heal you for 400 HP, or you kill them and you get an upgrade or a removal. Also, you can set deck focuses. There are a few different deck focuses, but this allows you to increase the chances that you'll see these particular types of cards and spells. And I'm covering up a little bit with the camera, but this is the best position for the camera to be in. Maybe we could go top left, but this is where you can set what types of cards you would prefer to see in drops. Now, it doesn't guarantee that every drop will have one, but definitely increases it. And so by default, Reva starts with Phalanx, as you might imagine. And I like removing Diagonal Beam right out of the gate. So I do want to do a couple more fights just so you can get a feel. You've got Hazards and Distress. Distress has a hostage that you can save, and at this point, I don't have a way to save the hostage because I don't have anything that can actually go behind. You can see I've got these jams in my deck. So the crystal exploded and killed the hostage. Unfortunately, I couldn't save them. So Jam Slam is actually a good thing for us. Fire a shot 4 tiles away for every jam you cast this battle, add 1 jam to your deck. Well, so this does 60 damage, and every time we cast a jam, it's gonna do more damage. It's actually not bad considering we have more jams in our deck. And actually, I'm going to grab more spell power that starts us with Fragile at the start of battle. I believe Fragile increases damage by 125%, I want to say is what it is. So obviously, starting with the Jam spell is bad because it's just a straight whiff at the start of battle. And you can see the game is a little fast. But early on, you know, once you kind of learn how the movement works and that just keep moving when you see things, but don't spam movement. That was one of the biggest mistakes I made at the beginning. You saw our jam spell did incredible for us there. Having more mana regen to make the jams better would be nice as well. So you can see at the bottom of the cards, this shows you what category they're in. Up here, you also have money and current HP as well. So we'll pick up Revenge, and honestly, the problem with this is I do have to cut the commentary off at some point, but I don't want to because I honestly just want to play the game more. But, you know, that probably spoiled a little bit of the review, but, you know, that's part of the game is, you know, it is definitely addictive from the standpoint of just how much you want to keep learning and trying out different things. And you can see that there's just a bunch of different stuff in the game. Like I said, all the characters play very differently as well. So I think that'll probably do it. You know, we'll finish up this fight and then we'll go from there into the rest of it. So let's go ahead and get things finished up. We'll need to cast that jam, catch this shield, dodge that. Shuffle taking a while here. Spell power, use Revenge, and then, oh, what a whiff. I did miss that shot. So that'll take us through to the end of this. So how about we jump back and I tell you what I think about One Step from Eden. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed that quick look at One Step from Eden. There's a lot more going on in the game than what you just saw. There's just a great many mechanics to kind of digest. But how about I try to break things down for you using my cards review system. If you don't know what that is, check out the link in the description below. I put it in all my review videos. That way you have an opportunity to go see the intro video that I did for this format. And so for the cards review system, we're going to open with core gameplay loop. And I mean, it's hard for me to look at any roguelike deck builder in a negative way when it comes to core gameplay loop because I find pretty much all of them to be fun. But very rarely does a roguelike deck builder come along that feels better than average And One Step from Eden is getting an A on core gameplay loop. And for reference, the only other game so far that I've given core gameplay loop an A on in my review series is Nova Drift. And you guys know how I feel about that, considering it is currently a permanent fixture on YouTube going forward. One Step from Eden's core gameplay loop is incredibly good. The characters play very differently. There's a ton of different spells and artifacts. The difficulty of it we'll kind of talk about in a little bit, but when you pull off a good play, you get an adrenaline rush that you very rarely get in a turn-based deck building roguelike. And that's also kind of what I felt about Nova Drift, is that in the roguelike genre, when you add a higher skill ceiling, you add to the potential adrenaline that you can only get from a real-time game. And don't get me wrong, when I first saw One Step from Eden, I was very skeptical that I would like it because it seemed like it would be too fast and too chaotic for me. But the more I play it, the more I enjoy it. I had a run last night where I did get to the final boss finally. And like throughout that entire run, anytime I pulled off a crazy good play against a boss and I felt the deck synergies coming together, it was just a pogged out of my mind, like hands up and yelling. I'm on my laptop in bed and trying to get ready to go to sleep at night, and the adrenaline is coursing through my veins. It is an absolute blast to play, and the only reason it's not higher is because of how high the skill floor is. And we'll talk about that more in difficulty, but I just feel like that it takes so long to get into and to get good at that it can drive a lot of people away initially, especially because of how chaotic it can be. And I also think that it's not as fun to watch as certain other games as well. And, you know, from a YouTube and stream perspective, I have to be careful with these types of games because they inherently decrease the level of commentary because your brain has to focus on about 10 different things at once. And the more things your brain is focusing on, the weaker your commentary gets. So that's also a slight knock on the game. But again, A is almost the highest mark I can give its fun rating, essentially. And it is a ridiculously fun game. Now, moving into One Step from Eden's atmosphere. This is something that I wavered on a little bit. I'm giving it a B+. And I think if it was purely a graphical thing, I would dock it a little bit more. I don't necessarily care for the graphical and art style, but the animations and the particle effects are probably in like an A, almost A+ tier. Every single ability and spell in the game has a different particle and a different animation. The way that they feel when you use them, the visual impact, even on screen shake setting to half. And by the way, can I point out how amazing it is that you can turn the screen shake to different levels? It's not just on or off, because I like it at half. It gives you a little bit of impact without being overwhelming or potentially causing motion sickness for viewers watching the game. The sound design, I think, is a combination of incredible and weak. I think the music leaves a lot to be desired, and ultimately at times I just kind of forget the music is there. But the sound design on when you get hit or when you hit an enemy, the sound design of each of the spells is top tier. And so wavering a little bit on that, that's why I gave it a B+, is I think there's more to like than to dislike. I don't think the dislikes are very strong. And from an immersion standpoint, it throws so much at you. There's so much going on at once that when you're playing the game, that is the only thing you're focusing on. This is not a game where you can easily like have Netflix or something, a Twitch stream going on another window and be able to kind of divert your attention. It sucks you in and you're just in the game. And so I would give it higher marks if it didn't have some of those negatives, the music and, you know, some of the graphical design. I think the UI is pretty well polished, albeit the keyboard controls are a little bit wonky. It is more meant to be a controller game. I play on keyboard because it's what I'm used to. But overall, that B+ to me is more a testament to how good the good things are than how bad the bad things are. Now, for One Step from Eden's replayability, I'm going to tell you this is the very first time I'm giving a game an A+ on replayability. I'm going to actually double check my examples. I'm pretty sure that I didn't give any of my examples an A+, but let me double check here. I gave, let's see, there were a few games here like Civ 5, Rocket League, Crusader Kings 2, CSGO, City Skylines. I'm putting it in that tier of replayability. I would say that One Step from Eden is literally endlessly replayable. And I'm going to use Rocket League as the best example, except it's even more replayable than Rocket League. It comes at you with a skill ceiling that is obscenely high. You could practice this game for 100 hours and still get better in that 101st hour. And I love that. Granted, as we're going to talk about in difficulty, as I pointed out in Core Gameplay Loop, the skill floor is probably a little high for my tastes. It takes a while to get into. The barrier for entry is reasonably high, but once you've crossed that threshold, I don't know that I would ever get tired of playing this game. Every single run, I feel like I'm moving the needle just a little bit, incremental improvement, even when I'm experimenting. And this is something that I talked about with Nova Drift as well, where Nova Drift got an A in replayability. I think this is more replayable than Nova Drift, and that's saying something because I've already put 100 hours into Nova Drift and I'm not even remotely close to sick of it yet. This game's replayability is enormous. The number of unlocks is huge. I've unlocked maybe half the characters, or no, because of the run last night, I unlocked, I think, the rest of the characters. Each character has different starting setups that change the way that character plays. The different cards that you get, the different artifacts you get. Yeah, I do think that there are a few builds that are maybe strongly synergistic, like Frost or Fire or Kunai, that you can kind of focus in on. And it's a lot harder to build kind of a jank run that's good, but that's mostly because I'm still bad. The reason I had a successful run last night is because I had a kunai build that when it got time to, I have 20 kunais at the end of my deck and they apply fragile, I can just spam them on a boss and do 600-700 damage over the course of a couple seconds. Without that, I usually die in, somewhere between the 3rd and 5th floors. But once you start getting closer to that skill ceiling, and I think the skill ceiling is basically infinitely high, much like a game like Rocket League or CSGO, once you start getting closer to that, if you can just keep dodging, then it doesn't really matter how bad your build is, you will kill the boss eventually. And because of that, it combines the insane replayability of a roguelike deck builder that almost every run is going to be different, with the endless replayability of something with a ridiculously high skill cap. I don't know if I will give another review on this channel an A+ to replayability, because now One Step from Eden has set the bar for replayability, and something has to come close to it to enter this A+ range again. Now, the topic that we probably need to spend the most time talking about is One Step from Eden's difficulty. I'll give you my grade up front. I'm giving the difficulty a B. And I honestly think that depending upon the run, I could go anywhere from an A+ to an F. Legitimately, it spans the whole gamut, because sometimes I'm like, how do you dodge that? Legitimately, no human being in existence can dodge that. That is unfair. I got unlucky draws on my deck. That's an F. Difficulty is bad, needs to be rebalanced. And then other times, I'm right on that razor's edge. I feel like the challenge is perfect. This is how my kunai run felt last night, is even though I'm maybe only 30 or 40 runs in, I still felt like being balanced on that razor's edge, the challenge felt perfect. That even at that low skill level that I'm at, because I got some good synergies, I could pop off. And so I had to balance it somewhere. I put it basically right in the middle. And let's be honest here, the game is ridiculously hard. The skill floor is incredibly high, especially for a roguelike deck builder. I mean, a lot of roguelikes do have a reasonably high skill floor. They expect you to die quite a few times before you even learn how the game works. And, I think that at times that's lazy design, where they don't really tutorialize anything. They just expect you to get good / figure it out. But I think that One Step from Eden holds your hand just enough to make that not necessarily a problem, but the problem of you're going to have to fight the same boss 20 times before you even recognize the patterns that are coming, and then another 50 times before you can actually consistently dodge said patterns. But I'm okay with that. The problem I have is I still think the game is too fast. And that's going to be the common complaint you see when you go read Steam reviews, is that they're going to complain that the developer is making the game too fast. They're making it difficult on purpose, too difficult on purpose. And this is after a major update came out, I think a week or two ago, where the bosses about halfway through the game and on were nerfed from how fast they move and how fast their attacks come out. I think that that balance needs to continue, and I don't think the difficulty is where it needs to be because it spans the gamut so much of too good and too bad. And you might be saying, well, if the difficulty wavers that much, then why isn't the grade lower? It's because more often than not, I'm happy with the difficulty. More often than not, I don't die because I felt like I got into an unfair situation that I couldn't escape from. It's usually, hey, I haven't built my deck in such a way that I do enough damage. I was trying to focus in on this synergy, I didn't get the right cards, and I didn't properly pivot. If you've ever played Slay the Spire, you know that you don't go into a new run saying, okay, I'm doing a Shiv run as the Silent, or I'm doing an armor stacking run as the Ironclad. No, you go into it and say, okay, what are my first few cards? Best card available, and then start building off of that. Same thing in One Step from Eden. It's just like any other roguelike deck builder. And sometimes I go in and I'm like, all right, I want to try a frost build. Pick up a couple frost cards, skip a bunch of stuff, hit the first boss, and I'm like, I do no damage. I didn't get the synergies. I shouldn't have focused in on this. That's my fault. Or I know this pattern, and my brain is just not sending the right neurons down from up here to my hands to move to dodge those attacks. That's on me. I'm not good enough yet. But I do think that they could make it a little bit easier. And I think that, I hate to say this, I think there should be an easy mode. I wouldn't play on the easy mode. I would continue playing on normal. But I think the game needs an easy mode. I think that there needs to be a mode that slows the entire thing down by about 25%. Because I probably would have played my first 5 or 10 runs on that just to get a feel for the game's mechanics before I was like, okay, now throw the speed at me. That, if the game had an easy mode where the entire game was slowed down by like 25 or 33%, this difficulty would probably be an A. I don't think I would ever give it an A+ because this type of game is inherently going to be quote unquote too difficult for me. But that right there would elevate the game's difficulty a lot because you have the option of playing a less difficult version of the game. Right now, the game is too difficult, but keep in mind how high the other marks are for how fun the game is despite that. Difficulty at a B is me saying it is too difficult. Sometimes I feel like it's unfair, but most of the time it's because I'm bad and I just need to practice more. And I'm okay with that. You shouldn't pick up a game like PUBG and expect to go into your first match and win. If you complain about PUBG being too hard because there's a bunch of pro players and you complain that the answer is just get good, then maybe that's not the right game for you. You can't expect to go hop on a football field with NFL level athletes and compete with them. You have to practice. And if you say a game is too hard because it requires practice, I greatly dislike that argument. But I do think this game requires a little bit too much practice before you can even get far enough into a run to start grokking the mechanics and start learning the bosses. And that's my only problem, is the barrier of entry is too high. I knew I was going to go on about this topic for a while. Again, it's the longest one. Difficulty at a B. I do want to move on, but again, an easy mode would elevate this exponentially. Now, for the final category, the game's support. Thomas Moon Kang is a fantastic developer. He has been in the community reading suggestions, and every single patch that comes out, whether it be hot fixes, content updates, rebalancing like 80% of the bosses, the support is an A. Do I think there could be more? Yeah, absolutely, but not a lot. I do think that this game will probably get mods at some point if it doesn't already. I honestly haven't even looked because I don't care. This game doesn't need mods. Again, the replayability is already an A+, so why do I need mods to increase the replayability? I think it would just dilute the game. But the fact of the matter is, ultimately, I want to see more content updates, but at the same time, I already feel like the game has enough content. I just want it to be balanced better. I want to see an easy mode. I want to see, UI tweaks and things like that. But ultimately, the engagement with the community, the ability to be willing to listen to the community and adapt and say, yeah, the first couple bosses, not that bad. Once you get past the first couple bosses, it's just overload. It's a mind flood. Okay, let me fix that. Hey, we found a bunch of bugs. Okay, let me fix those. He's been very engaged with the community. I really, really like what he's been doing. And I think that also releasing it on other platforms, I actually bought it again on Switch last night, just so if I do want to play it while I'm falling asleep at night, which is a bad idea, let me just say that, too much adrenaline takes a while to wind down, I can play it on my Switch Lite instead of a laptop. And that's how much I think the game is worth it, and how much I respect that he is doing a very good job of keeping the game updated and making sure the community feels important with the game's success. That's why the support is an A. Moving into my final tier ranking, at this point, it's no surprise. Not gonna, try to leave you on a cliffhanger. This game is in my Transcendent tier. And legitimately, I don't know that for me personally, that this would ever necessarily overtake Nova Drift in that Transcendent tier. But that's why I don't do number ratings or even say where they are in the Transcendent tier or in the Special tier or whatever. But this game is solidly Transcendent. From my understanding, there was a Mega Man game, and I haven't addressed this yet, but there was a Mega Man game or a series of Mega Man games that kind of did this format of the battle. So it's not necessarily like that is a unique idea. So I don't want to sit here and say, hey, this game is revolutionizing the genre by doing the most unique thing we've ever seen. I get that this game isn't necessarily wholly unique. And it's not necessarily going to spawn a new genre. I don't think there's going to be a lot of One Step from Eden knockoffs. But I think that's part of the point, is not a lot of people are going to try to make knockoffs of this. And honestly, I would say that if you try to make a knockoff of this, you're likely going to fail, because it requires so much dedication to the core flow of the bosses to balance that razor's edge of feeling like it's almost too difficult in order to get it right. And I think Thomas Moon Kang has done such a good job. Also, I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong. I'm assuming that the last name is Kang. It might be pronounced slightly differently. I do apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. One Step from Eden at this point is easily one of the best games of 2020. It's easily one of the best games of the last few years for me. I'm still terrible at it. I'm going to play the ever-living crud out of this game. I think that, it's not a game for everyone, but I do recommend that people try it and you give it enough playthroughs to start ingraining that muscle memory of dodging exclamation points that are underneath your feet. Once you fight a boss that has a pattern that you recognize and you successfully dodge that pattern a couple times in a row, I personally got that, oh my God, I dodged it feeling. I got so excited. The adrenaline starts pumping. The dopamine is firing off in ways that I've never seen. It is absolutely a transcendent game. I legitimately think that this is exactly the type of game that the roguelike deck building genre needs, is saying, hey, you can sit here and keep doing the same thing over and over and make another Slay the Spire clone, or you can take some important aspect of it, and they took the combat of it and said, take what the combat of Slay the Spire did, throw it out the window, and even though it's taking another module from another game, modifying it slightly and throwing it in to the genre, it worked. Keep doing that, indie developers. Keep saying, either here's a fresh new idea or here's an idea from a game that like I'd never heard of these Mega Man games that I mean, I've heard of Mega Man, but I don't even remember what type of game it was, but there was a series of Mega Man games or whatever that this type of combat was featured in. Never heard of it before. So to me, it was new and fresh and unique. And I don't know that a lot of people had played those games before. Keep doing that. Keep innovating. Keep trying to make things interesting. And when you do innovate, spend some time on balancing and polishing. Don't throw something out in early access and say, it's unfinished and it's unpolished. You guys tell me how to polish it. No, put it in early access polished and let the community help you finish the balance. It should help you finish the game, not build the game. And I think One Step from Eden executed that perfectly. As it is right now, still in early access, the game is absolutely top tier, and to think that the game is going to get better is amazing. I cannot say enough good things about this game. I'm not even going to look at what the price is. I don't care what it is. If it even slightly interests you, play it. It is amazing. I can't say enough good things about it. At this point, I'm losing my words to describe it. I'm going to stop it there. One Step from Eden is an amazing game. It goes in my Transcendent tier solidly. That's that. So anyways, that's going to do it for this review. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your feedback, likes, dislikes, comments, all that good stuff. Make sure you subscribe to this channel for more content in the future. I'm trying to ramp up the content and give you guys the best content that I possibly can moving forward. First looks, reviews, Let's Plays, Twitch VODs, all that good stuff. In addition, there is a link tree in the description below. Linktree has links to Twitch, Discord, Twitter, all that good stuff. Go check out the Discord especially. Come hang out with the community and some other developers that are in the Discord as well. You can ask them questions and stuff like that. And One Step from Eden makes a regular appearance on Roguelike Wednesdays over on twitch.tv/Runt9plays. Check that out as well. But until the next episode, I'm Runt9, and I'll see you later.